The Right Fits, we're back here. Just want to talk to you what's on my mind right now, these days, as we transition from the war in Ukraine to now the war in Israel. Just gets so frustrating being an American and seeing our tax dollars go over there. So much money. I think we're just sending a new aid package over to Ukraine. I think Biden just sent like a new $100 million package over to Ukraine. And you just think, after you see in Hawaii, you see, half of Maui get burned down, right? And you see, massive fentanyl epidemic in the U.S. You see homelessness spike. You see middle class wages have been stagnant since like the 70s. And you see our country has plenty of wealth. You see that our tax dollars are used towards specific values, right? Which just the bipartisan values always seem to be, right, more war, and none of it comes back to actually helping any American. So you see like the liberal, where you see the conservative perspective, which is just like, don't tax me at all. And that view is obviously, no taxing at all is obviously not possible in any society, but I'm very favorable to that view of tax as little as possible at least until you can see a government be responsible with the funds they use. So right now, our military industrial complex, our defense budget, but it's, how much do we have military bases on the shores of the U.S. or do we have military bases in every other country in the world, right? It's not really for defense. But you see this last year's budget, I think it was close to $900 billion. $900 billion in 1 year that our government, of our tax dollars, that our government will spend on essentially war. The military defense contracts and all the things that it buys, right? All the weapons and all the wages we put toward the military and all, the CIA, the Defense Department, the FBI. I don't know about the FBI. That might be funded under something else. But all Defense Department stuff, Pentagon funded stuff, is included in that little under $900 billion. And this is how you know we don't have a choice, right? Whether the Democrat or the Republican, whoever gets in office, the spending goes up. We don't have a choice over that. Americans do not have a choice of whether we spend less on war. There is no person who we can put in power, right? The chief executive who can say, let's spend less on war. That doesn't happen, right? And the military industrial complex will do anything to make sure it doesn't happen. And these two wars, getting back to Israel and Ukraine, what really kills me is that we're entering a time in the U.S. where, inflation is increasing. The dollar is, I would say, just from like a purely speculative standpoint, what's the volatility of the dollar in the next decade, right? I think it's more uncertain right now than it has been in a long, long time. Maybe since the 30s, the Great Depression. I don't think you could point to a time where you could say the dollar's been more unstable or more in threat of devaluing, inflation, economic, collapse of the dollar as the world currency, which you could see with the BRICS countries. What is that? Brazil, Russia, India, South Africa, China. They're trying to use their currencies as a new world reserve. And you almost don't blame them, because the American, the World Bank, all these, you know, the International Monetary Fund, all these things have not really been fair to the developing countries as they are to the developed countries. If you just want to look at like Haiti, for example. But what this all has to do, bring it back to our tax dollars, the military-industrial complex, right? The military-industrial complex has made it in a way where no matter who becomes president, we spend hundreds of billions of dollars, 900 billion, which is more than, it's damn near more than the rest of the world combined. Just the U.S. military spends, and half these people are our allies, right? The other big spenders, China. But like India, Russia is a not huge spender, but India is technically our friend. The British, Canadians. These people spend a lot of money on the French. They spend a lot of money on their military, and they're our friends. So you see, Ukraine. Most people don't know this about Ukraine, but Ukraine is essentially a military-industrial complex war. It is essentially fought right now. For one, NATO kept expanding, even though the Russia said they just want to guarantee, stop the expansion. We couldn't do that. We're in this war right now because we couldn't do that. We needed to expand our military. We always choose, this is kind of the predicament of an empire. They always choose expansion over security, right? And that leads to the downfall of every empire. And, this overwhelming need to control other people's foreign policy, and we're doing that at the detriment of these Ukrainians. Zelensky wanted to make a peace deal in the first 6 months, and we said that couldn't happen. He would have been forced into a peace deal. Just so everybody's aware, he would have been forced into a peace deal by now if it weren't for the West. But we needed this war to happen, and now that broad support's going away from the people, all of a sudden we're not too happy to keep throwing as much money as we were. We're essentially letting this proxy war wind down just after blowing a bunch of our money that will now go to other companies. Right, our tax dollars now will go to other companies to rebuild what we just helped destroy in Ukraine, right? And now you see Israel start to pop off. We've supported Israel through everything. Israel is like a state funded by the military-industrial complex. They've been tied at our hip ever since their creation and dependent. Now almost completely on U.S. Foreign aid to essentially guarantee our security, which is why people are so frustrated with America, because we have the ability to tell the Israelis, you guys got to stop your indiscriminate bombing over and over and over. But what the military-industrial complex has essentially done, since what the military-industrial complex fundamentally is, and this is what Eisenhower warned about. He warned about, essentially, corporate entities getting involved in persuading government officials to continue war. So, this is just a normal economic sense of how companies are funded, but the more there is a demand for something, so the more the government demands us go to war, we need more of a supply of these military weapons, right? So the more wars we're in, the more wars we're supporting with our aid, the more these companies' stock prices go up, essentially, right? The more the capitalist machine works to give them profits. That's what they do if they're making stuff for the military. And as war increases, their profits increase. That's essentially how it works. And this is what Eisenhower worried about. But it's caused such a systemic cycle, right, of more companies gaining more money, therefore gaining more influence because of our crazy because of our crazy lobbying system in the U.S., the more these companies make from the taxpayer money, the more they can then lobby the government to then continue the cycle of the spending to those companies. And that's what Eisenhower worried about, and that's what we're trapped in, and that's why right now Israel has more influence in Congress than the U.S. people actually do. Because almost every senator gets money from AIPAC, the Israeli political lobby. Almost every congressman gets money from them, and if not, AIPAC will fund their. If they say anything bad, if they criticize anything about Israel, right? AIPAC will raise plenty of money to fund their the opponent's backers and get them kicked out of office. They love doing that, and that just happened to Bernie Sanders' number one woman. I forget her name, but she was running for office, and she said she was like a backer of boycott, divest, and sanctions, BDS. And you see now, because of all that funding through the military-industrial complex, Israel has more influence on our own government than we do. And you can't stop the funding. There's essentially no way to stop the funding now. That's just something that was getting to me that I need to share with everybody. You guys, please subscribe. Please like. Keep checking out my other videos. Thanks, you guys. Love you all.